for a veteran solution at the quarterback position while they hold out at least a little bit of hope that Joe Burrow can come back by the end of the year.
And you really think about it, Flacco's played on enough teams, enough years. He probably knows every offense in the NFL, and he already beat the Packers a couple of weeks ago when he was at the Browns, so there's familiarity there. Saturday, what does this trade mean for Cincinnati now moving forward?
Honestly, I don't know what this is a shot in the dark to me. This is not an offense that protects their quarterback. Joe Flacco isn't fleet of foot. I mean, Joe Burrow was back there getting hit. And I understand Browning's not playing well. I'm not sure what you think you upgrade other than, okay, get the ball out on time, use Higgins, put it in Chase's hands, that kind of thing. But I look at this thing and I don't know. It's a kind of a head scratcher to me. Joe Flacco hasn't lit it up in Cleveland, and so maybe Zach Taylor's like, hey, we're going to bring a veteran in, help him, from the mental side of the game. Maybe he can come help us, to Dan's point, in a couple weeks. But they got to learn how to protect. And the bottom line is, you have a quarterback who's not mobile, who's going to stand in one place. You better make sure protection's front and center in this offense to help him get the ball off.
Yeah, not once has Joe Flacco in his entirety of his career been compared to Vince Young. So that's a great point. He's not an agile guy and an offensive line that certainly struggled. So that's the Bengals' perspective from this. Graziano, back to the Browns. What does this now mean from a quarterback room that had about 7 guys in training camp, and now they're down to just a couple?
The veterans they had in training camp, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, have both been traded, and that leaves the rookies. Dylan Gabriel, who got his first start last week, and of course, Shedeur Sanders. Now, when they switched to Gabriel last week, Kevin Stefanski, their head coach, said Flacco would still be the number 2, the backup, and Shedeur Sanders was the emergency third quarterback this past week. A move like this, assuming they don't bring in some other veteran, tells you that they're comfortable, at least for the time being, with Shedeur Sanders in that number 2 spot, which means if something were to happen to Dylan Gabriel, he would have to go into the game. I still expect, Matt, that the Browns will want to get a look at both of these rookies before the end of the season just to see what they have. But Gabriel is in there right now, did all right the other day, and is likely to continue to get starts for the time being. Eventually, we might see Shedeur Sanders for a team that has 2 first-round picks next year and knows it has to address this situation for the long term.
Yeah, I agree with Graz here. I think when you think about Shedeur Sanders, this was probably the plan even when they made the move to Gabriel, is why would you have Flacco be the backup long term? I mean, at some point you go, no, we're going to move on from it. So, I think this was probably going to happen either way. And to Graz's point, I also think if Gabriel doesn't continue to progress or get to where he wants, you will give Sanders a shot to see what he can do on Sundays. And so I think this is pretty typical when you move away from the vet. You're kind of moving into what you consider draft season as the season progresses. If you're not winning, and let's be honest, the Gabriel, if they have a decent drive and stop them, they had an opportunity to win. That's what with a defense like Cleveland, you have that. So I think this is probably the way it was suited. I was just shocked that they got him traded as quickly as they did.
Yeah, kind of a head turner on draft night when they took both of these rookie quarterbacks. You'd think they'd battle it out in the preseason. Now it could happen into the season, even though Gabriel looked pretty sharp for his part in his first ever career start. Breaking news out of the NFL. Graz and Saturday here to break it down. Thank you, guys.
Sports HQ, where the Cincinnati Bengals have acquired quarterback Joe Flacco from the Cleveland Browns. That is the latest from our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. Now, the Bengals have been struggling since Joe Burrow went down with a toe injury, losing 3 straight to fall to 2-3 on the season with Jake Browning at the helm. And this week, they are on the road to play the Packers on Sunday afternoon. And with that, we've got guest here joining us now. We've got our NFL analyst, Lige Duzable, and Aditi Kinkawala, who has the league covered. We know you're working sidelines. I'm joining you there, too, sometimes. So let's start with this, guys, and I'll start with you, Lige. Can you assess the Bengals' chances now of making a run now that they've made this switch? Because obviously now maybe they're not thinking that Jake Browning is the guy.
Yeah, Tip, this is a bit of a head scratcher, and to me, it also smells of desperation by the Cincinnati Bengals. When you look at it, right, Zach Taylor, 2 consecutive years not making the playoffs. Tiffany, you've covered this league for a while. If you go 3 years without making the playoffs, usually your seat gets hot as far as job security. So when you look at it, you rarely see interdivisional trades, right? So the Cleveland Browns have had Joe Flacco in the building. They're willing to trade him to a divisional foe. That should tell you everything you need to know. And then I'm going to have our producer, Mark, put up this graphic comparing Jake Browning to Joe Flacco. What's the difference, Tiff?
Well,
What's the difference? Matter of fact, when you look at Joe Flacco, his interception to touchdown ratio is worse than Jake Browning. So to me, yes, I get it. It hasn't gone well, but me and you, Tiff, were talking before we came online. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback right now for the Cincinnati Bengals behind that offensive line. The reason why they don't have their superstar quarterback is because of that offensive line. And now you're going to take Jake Browning away, put in Joe Flacco. I'm not saying Jake Browning is the answer, but you're going to put Joe Flacco in there who is less mobile than Jake Browning. How is that going to pan out? Another issue, this offensive line has not blocked well for Chase Brown running the football. They become a one-dimensional team. So again, you remove Jake Brown and you put Joe Flacco in who's older. Are you going to sit back and throw 40 times with Joe Flacco? Because history has shown us that's not going to bode well for your team.
All right, well, Leisha, here's what I'll say. You are completely right about that offensive line. I certainly hope that offensive line doesn't get Joe Flacco killed, but Flacco can indeed deliver the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So you've got that going for you. And if you're not constantly behind, then maybe you can get that run game going. And that obviously has been a huge problem for the Bengals. The run game, the play action game, haven't seen it at all. The thing I would say, guys, my mind is blown.
Correct.
Why would you send a quarterback to a division rival right now who could actually put the ball in the hands of your playmakers? You had an opportunity to completely bury the Bengals. Why would you do this? And the Bengals, I'm going to come back to another quarterback that the Browns had during training camp, the one that they actually wanted to start for them, and that was Kenny Pickett. Why wouldn't you make an effort to go trade for a guy who actually does have some athleticism, who could possibly move when your offensive line isn't secure in any way and doing its job? So it's head scratching in a lot of ways. All I can think is that the Bengals believe that Joe Flacco can indeed deliver the ball downfield. The Browns know that Deshaun Watson is getting healthier. Kevin Stefanski just gave an update. When I talked to Deshaun myself during training camp, he said that he was ahead of schedule as compared to when he had hurt the Achilles before. Maybe the Browns have seen enough out of Dillon Gabriel and they are that hopeful that he stays healthy. Maybe this is Jimmy Haslam having said during training camp that the Browns want to at least see both of these rookie quarterbacks at some point. So whether Shedeur Sanders is talking or not, he's going to get an opportunity at some point. But I certainly feel that Joe Flacco is indeed an upgrade. He can indeed still throw the ball to Browning. But it's a head scratcher all around, guys. Totally a head scratcher.
Yeah, I could feel that coming from both of you, the energy. And same here. And I want to go back to, you did mention Joe Flacco could get them ahead, right? Like find the playmakers, get them ahead. There's been times in the past where the Bengals have been able to rely on their defense to kind of turn some things around. Yeah. It's been a little hit and miss this season. I know I had them in week 2 with that loss against the Jags, and you're kind of just like left like, what's going on there? That being said, Aditi, I got to ask you then, since you are boots on the ground when it comes to all things AFC North a lot of the time, just what does this mean for the division as a whole now?
I mean, Tiffany, the Steelers, of all people, are in the driver's seat. I said this before. I think I said this on HQ, in fact, last week, that no matter what that offense does, no matter what decisions Mike Tomlin makes, the football gods just don't want the Steelers to lose. And so the Ravens have so much to figure out. You can look at them and still say that they are the most talented team in the division. You can still expect that at some point they will get healthy. You hope that defense, you hope for their sake, that just like a year ago, that defense that started slow will right itself in some way. I am unwilling 4 or 5 weeks into the season to sit here and write off any team. So the Ravens are still a load, and you've still got one of the best players in the National Football League in Lamar Jackson, one of the few quarterbacks that can put a team on his shoulders. You're not writing them off, but they're not healthy right now, and they're certainly having a lot of issues on offense in terms of what they're doing. They're certainly having